Mercury retrograde of 2025 is going to be one of the most intense transits that we are going to experience this year. During Mercury retrograde, not only are we going to experience Mercury going retrograde, but we are also going to be experiencing Venus retrograde and 2 solar eclipses all at the same time, making this Mercury retrograde in particular the most intense transit that we're going to experience in 2025. Hi, my name is Elizabeth. I am a practicing astrologer who has studied the art of astrology since 2017. Here on this channel, we like to talk about astrology, numerology, and everything written in the stars for you. Today, we're going to be talking about Mercury retrograde and how it is going to impact each of the zodiac signs throughout the entire month of March and into April. Currently, we are in something called the Mercury retrograde shadow period. During this time period, we are beginning to get a taste of how Mercury retrograde is going to impact each and every one of us. For this Mercury retrograde, it's going to start off in the sign of Aries and go backwards through the sign of Pisces all the way through April 7th. And during this time, we are all going to experience confusion around communication. We might have miscommunications with people. Communications might get jumbled up. During this time, you might also find that you are reconsidering words that you might have spoken in the past in order to become a better new version of yourself. We are currently in something called the Mercury retrograde shadow period that began on March 1st. This is the 2 weeks before the actual Mercury retrograde. And during this time, we're kind of getting a taste of the themes that we're going to experience throughout Mercury retrograde. And when Mercury retrograde begins on April 14th, we are really going to feel the impacts of Mercury retrograde. With the heavy emphasis on Aries energy during this Mercury retrograde, we are all going to be heavily focused on who we are as people, how we present ourselves in this world, how we view ourselves, and what kind of things are we putting out into the world to showcase our own individuality, who we are as people, and what kind of things we're doing for ourselves. We might also reconsider our language at this time in order to become a better and stronger leader in the spotlight. We might also want to reconsider the words that we're choosing when we are in the spotlight in order to better showcase our talents, better showcase who we are as people in order to attract an audience and attract people who want to be led by you. Mercury retrograde is going to end on April 7th, and we are then going to experience a 2-week post-retrograde shadow period where we will still feel the effects of Mercury retrograde. It will not be as intense as between March 14th and April 7th, but we will still have some of the same effects that we'll have during the retrograde period. It is important to pay attention to all of the things that happen during Mercury retrograde, as these things could have a lasting impact for you over the next 2 years. But another thing that makes this Mercury retrograde impactful is the fact that we are going to have not one, but 2 solar eclipses in the sign of Aries and Pisces. At the same time, we are having Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde. This is going to make this month one of the most intense periods of 2025. In this video, I'm going to go through every single rising sign so you can get a picture about how this will affect you based on your rising sign. However, be sure to check your sun, moon, and rising signs in order to get a full picture of how the next month will affect you. Starting with Aries rising. Aries, you are going to be experiencing Mercury retrograde through your first house of Aries. And during this time, you are going to be heavily focused on yourself. What kind of things are you putting out into the world to showcase who you are, your talents, and what kind of things do you want to show to present yourself with? What are your hairstyles, your fashion choices, the way you do your makeup? What you're communicating out into the world as it pertains to your own appearance and the way you want to be perceived in this universe. During this time, you're going to be heavily reconsidering what you have done in the past in order to grow into a new and better version of yourself. You might start to undergo a period where you are going through a rebranding with what you put out into the universe. You might change your style a little bit. You could start doing your makeup differently. You could start writing things or doing different artwork or photography in order to showcase who you are as a person. And by the end of this Mercury retrograde, you will be entering a new time frame where you will be considering all the things you're creating and how it relates to your spiritual self. And coinciding the two, you will then project yourself into a new version of you once you enter the post-retrograde shadow period. Once we hit about April, May, and June, you are going to become a brand new version of you. Aries placements, it's also important to mention that March and even into April of this year are going to be one of the most intense months that you personally will experience, because we have a ton of Aries energy happening this month with Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde, and the 2 eclipse cycles all happening in your sign. You are going to be totally and completely transformed this month. You might feel like your life is being flipped upside down so you can become a brand new, better version of yourself. Taurus rising, you are going to be experiencing Mercury retrograde go retrograde through your 12th house of spirituality, suffering, the things unseen, the things that are hidden. During this time, you might undergo a period of your life where you might find that you have hidden enemies or people who come out of the woodwork who might have once been allies but have now turned their backs on you, and you are ready to remove those people from your life. During this time, you could experience something very traumatic and intense, Taurus rising, something very intense that could happen in your life that then causes you to transform and be projected into a brand new version of you. During the month of March of this year, for Taurus rising, is going to be intense, impactful, and it's going to have you change and shift into a better version of you. You might have to leave old relationships behind. You might have to get rid of the toxic ex, get rid of the toxic friend group, because you don't need those people in your life anymore. Once you leave the month of March and even early April, you are about to undergo a new period of your life that is going to be transformed. You are going to feel a lot better after all that toxicity is removed from your life, and you're going to be a brand new, better person. Once you hit about April, you might reconsider posting more on social media, start to rebrand yourself, and take all of the information that you've learned and all of the trauma that you're now healing from in the month of March, and you're now ready to go into a brand new version of you where you can better yourself and also better other people. Gemini rising, during Mercury retrograde, you are going to be heavily focused on your social networks, who you surround yourself with. You might undergo a period of your life where you are going to be transforming social media, transforming your presence on social media, what kind of things you post on social media. Do you have a blog? If you have something like a written blog, you are now going back and rewriting things. You are posting more on your blog and trying to find ways on the internet in order to grow your social media presence and grow your network of people in order to attract new people into your social media and have you be projected into the future where you will now be working more on your public image, more on your career in order to become a better new version of you. And by the end of March and into early April, Mercury is going to have you reconsider everything that you're putting out communication wise in order to become a brand new version of you. You are going to start to post more frequently on social media in order to grow your public image and grow your reputation with other people. You are going to be very focused on the communications that you put out into this world in order to have a positive reputation with everybody. You want the people in your life and the people in the social media stratosphere to like you. You want people to love your social media presence and view you as having a very high reputation. This is all going to help you with your career and success and anything you do in the public eye. This will also help you with your finances by becoming more financially stable or becoming more well known in your practice and well known in your industry. Cancer rising, during Mercury retrograde, you are going to be experiencing Mercury going backwards through your 10th house of public recognition, career, fame, reputation. And during this time, you are going to be reconsidering everything that you're putting out onto social media. How are you communicating with others? You're going to be reconsidering your own career and your own public image and what things you're putting out into the universe in order to build your reputation and build your public image. You might reconsider the things that you're putting out into the stratosphere, as anything you put out will help your public image. You might also reconsider things that you could have previously written in your own 9-to-5 job. If you have any sort of job that involves written communications or speaking communications, whether you work in the business world or you're like a nurse practitioner or something like that, you are going to be reconsidering past emails or past documents that you have written and go through that information in order to help yourself with your own career and reputation. You might go back and reconsider these documents as a way to boost your notoriety and boost your reputation within your profession or within your career. And by the end of March and into early April, you will find that you are now going to be learning more and trying to study more information in order to then help your public image even further once you enter the post-retrograde shadow period. You are going to be studying more things and working harder to gather more knowledge in order to boost your reputation in your chosen field. Leo rising, Mercury retrograde this year is going to have you reconsider anytime that you have traveled in the past. You might be reminiscing and be feeling nostalgic about anything that you have done as it pertains to travel. You could have gone on a trip last year and that trip could have felt very nostalgic to you. You could have felt like, oh, this is like the best place that I've ever been in my whole life. And you could be thinking of ways and trying to come up with plans in order to travel more. You could be going on long intellectual pursuits and going down YouTube rabbit holes and deep Google search dives in order to gain as much information as you can. So when you go and travel to that place again, you are going to be able to have the best time ever there. You might even consider relocating to that area and trying to find ways to better yourself and better the way you travel and travel more efficiently during this time. In the US, we had a bunch of things that happened with travel when Mars was retrograde through the sign of Cancer. Now that it is gone direct, we are not seeing as many mishaps as it pertains to travel or things that are happening in America with plane crashes or anything like that. However, you could be trying to gather as much information and gather as much knowledge as you possibly can in order to make sure that you will be safe on your next flight or next time you travel. You could also, during this time, be reconsidering going back to school and gaining another degree. You could seriously consider gaining more knowledge through higher education in order to better your career, in order to better who you are as a person, and in turn make a lot of money. And by the end of this March and into early April, you will be completely transformed. You will be working on ways to transform yourself. You might even take out a loan or borrow money from somebody else in order to go on that trip or start your higher education journey. Virgo rising. During Mercury retrograde, it is very important to pay attention to your communications with others, as you could experience some traumatic events during this time. Some very intense things could happen to you, Virgo rising, while Mercury is retrograde through your 8th house of Aries. When you have Mercury, the planet of communications, knowledge and intellect, going retrograde through your 8th house of past traumas, you could have some intense experiences happen to you during this time. You could have psychological things that happen to you where you think you're saying one thing and somebody says, no, you said something else. So you could have traumatic things happening like that around this time period. You could also find that if you have any loans, like student loans, car loans, mortgages, anything that involves other people's money, during this time you might also be reconsidering new ways to pay down these debts and also make good on any money that you previously owed to anybody else. If you have something like a car payment, you might start to come up with big and large plans in order to pay down your car payment, in order to pay off your car so you don't have any more debt and you are officially debt-free. Virgo rising, so it's also very important to pay attention to any and all words that you choose during this time period. You might have traumatic things happen to you during this time period, so pay attention to any and all communications that you have and pay attention to all of your words. Pay attention to the things that you say, because during this time you could actually speak things into the existence. When you have strong 8th house transits, your magic and your spiritual gifts are heightened during this time. So you could actually strongly manifest something during this time period when Mercury is retrograde through your 8th house. During this time, you could also have something like spiritual communications or downloading information from the universe. Pay attention to any and all signs from the universe, like angel numbers or waking up in the middle of the night and receiving information. This is all spiritual information that will help you through Mercury retrograde and into the next chapter of your life. Libra rising, you are going to be experiencing Mercury retrograde through your 7th house of one-on-one relationships, partnerships, business partnerships, and best friendships. During this time, you might be reconsidering your past relationships with people, who your best friends were in the past, and what lessons you have learned from those past relationships. If you are not currently friends with that group of people or friends with that person anymore. You could start to feel nostalgic for having friends or nostalgic for having like groups of people who support you. And during this time, you might also reconsider why you're no longer friends with them or why you're no longer in that romantic relationship with that person. Although you could still feel nostalgic during this time. You could be downloading thoughts from the universe telling you and giving you flashbacks from the past of what has happened in the past and what you should now take from that experience to project into the future when you get new future relationships or when you get that new romantic relationship in your life. Scorpio risings, you are going to be experiencing Mercury retrograde through your 6th house of daily life, routine, who your coworkers are. During this time, you might experience some health scares or something that happens with your actual health. Maybe you receive information from somebody about your health situation. Maybe you need to start eating more clean and working out more. And during this time, you could be focused on how you can improve your own bodily health in order to become a better, more fit version of you. You could also, during this time period, decide to switch jobs or even reminisce on certain time periods at work that you are now learning from those experiences. You could have visions or reflections from the past with your coworkers or just your work life in general, with information about things that have happened there and how you can now project yourself into a brand new version of you in order to become a better version of yourself at work. You could also really realize and drill down onto certain things that you want to have in your work life that will help you be more of a fulfilled person and become more of a stronger person during this time period. By the end of March and into early April, you may reflect and find that you want to have more of a creative role in your job or in your profession, whether you want to switch your job completely over to something that is creative based. Maybe you become a graphic designer, maybe you start video editing more, or even posting things on social media more will allow you to have the creative freedom that you so desire in your work life. Sagittarius rising, you are going to be experiencing Mercury retrograde through your 5th house of fun, pleasure activities, dating, romance. You also find things like hobbies and gambling and having fun in this house. When you experience Mercury retrograde going through this sign, you might be reflecting and reminiscing on things that have made you happy in the past. You might decide to begin new creative projects or start to reflect on old creative projects in order to become a stronger and better creative person in the future. If you are a writer, you could consider old things that you have written in the past in order to become a better and stronger writer. If you are communicating in any way, for example, if you're a music artist, you could decide to go back into past communications that you have created or past songs that you have written and go back into those songs to then find something new to create to make other people happy. With Venus going retrograde through this sign as well, you might be reflecting on the things that you have created that have brought other people joy. So the music artist example is a great example because the 5th house is we find joy in the things where we find fun in. So when you have Mercury and Venus retrograde going through the sign at the same time, you're reconsidering the things that you have created in order to make people happy, the words that you have written to make other people happy, and what you can learn from those past things that you have created and those past experiences in order to become a better and stronger artist. During this time, it is very good to have a journal or keep a journal in order to remember all of the creative thoughts that you think of during this time. So when it is time to create new songs or create new written content, you can then reference that in the future. If you're a Capricorn rising, during this time, you're going to be reflecting on your mental health, your home life. What are the things that make you feel very nostalgic? Like, you are going to be getting flashbacks from the past of things that have happened, like when you were a child or just early on in your life. And all of those flashbacks and thoughts that you are going to be reminiscing and rethinking are going to have you reconsider your home life and how you are currently living. And once Mercury is out of the retrograde period, you are going to feel like a brand new version of you. You are going to realize like, oh, well, I can go and do that thing. I can buy that house now. During Mercury retrograde, you could also be considering purchasing a house or setting up plans to purchase a brand new house. Like if you want to receive a house in the future, you could start working on and developing a plan in order to purchase that house in the exact location you want, in the exact place you want. You could be working very hard during this time to come up with all of the plans in order to receive what you want. And once Mercury is out of the retrograde period, you are then going to be focused on making those dreams come true and making all of those things happen once Mercury goes direct. If you are an Aquarius rising, Mercury is going to be going retrograde through your third house of thinking, the mind, communication. And during this time, you are going to be really, really reflecting on the things that make you happy, the things that you like to learn about, things that intellectually stimulate you. You might be going back and remembering old podcasts that you listened to and re-listening to those podcasts. You could be taking a lot of time with rereading books. You could remember old information or get a flashback from like a book that you read, and you want to go back and reread that book to gather the same information or make you feel a certain way again. You could also be spending more time and reminiscing about social media in order to boost your social media presence. You could also go through something like a rebranding where you're redoing your work on social media in order to perfect your public image. You could receive new information from the universe saying you should go in this direction instead. Or you could be working on something new that will help push you into the future with social media. You could have come up with a new idea with your content that will help you become a new and bigger version of yourself. If you are a Pisces rising, Mercury is going to be going retrograde through your second house of personal finances, personal earning power, skills, how we actually accumulate resources and accumulate money. So when you have Mercury go retrograde through your second house, you are going to be coming up with plans and coming up with new ideas in order to boost your own personal resources. You might have a business idea or an idea that will help you gain more money, or maybe you have $1 million idea that will help you become more financially stable and might help you become a new and better version of you. You might start to come up with long plans in order to create that product or create that business or write that book that will help you become who you want to be reflected outwardly. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Elizabeth. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. I post new content every single week.